This is how to wire your house, the whole thing on one diagram, from the pole out on the street to the socket behind your couch. Watch. Power comes in over here at the service head. It passes through the meter and lands in this box, the main panel. And from that one box, every wire in your home fans out. Lights, sockets, the cooker. The whole house is hanging off this single point. Get the shape of this diagram, and a home's wiring stops being a mystery inside the walls. It becomes a map you can read. Here is the whole idea before we zoom in. A house is wired as a tree. One trunk comes in from a street. It hits the panel and splits into branches, the circuits. Each circuit runs out to a room and feeds the devices there. That is the nesting you have to hold in your head. Panel, then circuit, then device. The panel feeds many circuits. Each circuit feeds many devices. Point at anything electrical in your home, and it lives on exactly one circuit, which traces straight back to one breaker in that panel. One honest thing first. A full rewire is a qualified electrician's job. In most places, legally so. This video does not turn you into one. It shows you how the diagram is structured, so you can read your own, plan a job, or actually follow your electrician. Right? Let's follow the power in. It starts outside at the service entrance. This is where the utilities supply physically meets your house. The cable from a street arrives at a service head, sometimes called the cutout. Inside it sits the supplier's main fuse, the one you are never allowed to touch. That fuse is the last thing they own. Everything past it is yours. From there, the supply passes through the meter. The meter does one job. It counts every unit of energy you draw, so you can be billed for it. It does not protect anything. It just measures. Two thick cables leave the meter. We call them the tails. One is live, one is neutral, and they carry the full supply the short distance into your main panel. That is the entrance. Street to fuse to meter to tails, and now we are at the heart of the whole thing. This is the main panel. In the UK, it is the consumer unit. In the US, the breaker panel or load center. Same job everywhere. Take one big supply and share out safely. The tails come in and hit the main switch first. That is one big double pole switch that kills the entire house at once. Find it. It is the handle you throw in an emergency. Past the main switch, the power lands on the bus bars. Think of these as two solid metal rails running the length of the panel. One live, one neutral. Every circuit taps off these same bars. And here is where the tree branches. Each circuit gets its own breaker clipped onto the live bus bar. The breaker is a protective switch. It feeds one circuit, and it trips if that circuit pulls too much current or faults. One breaker, one circuit, out to one part of the house. Read a panel, and you're really just reading a list. This breaker feeds the kitchen sockets. That one feeds the upstairs lights, and so on down the row. Quick pause. Every diagram in this video is drawn in Circuit Diagram Maker, a free editor that runs right in your browser. No install, no sign up. The whole house diagram you are looking at is in there, ready to open. You can trace the panel, follow a circuit out to a room, and zoom in on any part of it yourself. The link is below. Keep it open in a second tab. The best way to learn this is to poke at a real one while you watch. Onward to the circuits. Every circuit leaving that panel belongs to one of two big families. Learn the two, and most of the house makes sense. Family 1 is lighting. These circuits run at lower current. They only ever feed lamps and their switches, and lamps do not draw much. So the breaker is small, and the cable is thin. Family 2 is power, the socket circuits. These feed your general purpose outlets, and an outlet might have a kettle or a heater plugged into it. Much more current, so a bigger breaker and thicker cable. Then there's a third group that refuses to share at all, the dedicated circuits for the really hungry appliances. We will get to those. Lighting, sockets, dedicated. 3 groups, and every wire in the house drops into one of them. Start with the lighting circuits, because they're the gentlest. A lighting circuit is usually a radial. It leaves the breaker, runs from point to point, and simply stops at the last light. No loopback. Along the way it feeds each light and its switch. The live is taken down to a switch, the switch breaks it, and the switched live carries onto the lamp. Flip the switch, The gap closes, the lamp lights. That is the entire logic, repeated room by room. This is exactly where our detailed videos take over. Wiring the switch itself, the one-way, the two-way, the dimmer, each has its own full walkthrough. So do LED downlights, and wiring several lights in parallel off one switch. On this map, that is a single line to one room. Those videos are the street-level detail. This one is just showing you where that street sits in the town. Now, the socket circuits. And here, the two big wiring traditions split apart. This is the one place a British house and an American house really look different on paper. In the UK, the classic is the ring final circuit. The cable leaves the breaker, loops right around the room, feeding every socket, and returns to the same breaker. A complete ring. Current can reach any socket from both directions, which lets a thinner cable carry a 32-amp circuit safely. In the US and much of the world, sockets sit on a radial branch circuit instead. One cable out, feeding outlet after outlet, ending at the last one. No return leg. It is simpler to wire and simpler to fault find. You just use appropriately sized cable for the load. Ring or radial, the socket itself wires up the same way. And yes, wiring a wall socket and wiring a junction box to branch a circuit each has its own step-by-step video. Link for you. Some appliances are too hungry to share a circuit with anything. Each one gets its own dedicated run, a single breaker, a single cable, feeding a single machine. The electric cooker or oven is the classic. It might pull 40 amps on its own, so it gets a heavy cable straight from the panel to a cooker point. An electric shower is the same story. Huge, instantaneous load, its own big breaker, its own thick cable. So is the water heater or immersion. And increasingly, the EV charger, its own circuit, sized for hours of steady high current. Why separate them? Because of a rule called diversity. You never just add up every appliance's amps and size the supply for all of them at once. Nothing in a house runs flat out at the same moment. The dedicated circuits protect the big loads individually, and the whole install is sized for realistic, not worst-case, demand. Now, the most important part of the whole diagram, the part that keeps you alive, earthing and bonding. Every one of those circuits carries a third wire alongside live and neutral. The earth. It normally carries no current at all. It sits there doing nothing until something breaks. If a live wire ever touches the metal case of an appliance, the earth gives that fault an instant path straight back to the panel. A huge current flows for a split second, and the breaker trips before the metal can ever become dangerous to touch. That is the whole point of it. Bonding takes it further. Thick earth cables clamp onto your incoming metal, water, and gas pipes, tying them to the same earth. It stops any dangerous voltage appearing between things you might touch. And watching over all of it is the RCD, or GFCI. It compares the current going out against the current coming back. The instant even a tiny amount leaks to earth, through a fault or through a person, it cuts the power in milliseconds. Earth bonding, RCD. That is the safety backbone of the entire house. Let's build the shape of it, live so the nesting really lands. Here is a blank canvas. Drop in a breaker. That is our panel feed. Add a switch and a light. There is a lighting circuit. Add a socket. There is a power circuit. Now wire them back to the source and add the earth to each one. Look at what you have. One feed, splitting into two circuits, each ending in a device, all sharing a common earth. That is a whole house in miniature. A real panel is just this, repeated 20 times, out to 20 rooms. Same diagram, more branches. So that is the map of your house. Service entrance, meter, panel, lighting circuits, socket circuits, dedicated runs, and the earth threaded through every one of them. Here is how to use it. This video is the map, the whole town from above. Our other videos are the individual streets. When you're ready to actually wire something, go to its own video. Wiring a light switch? There's a full one for that. A wall socket, a junction box, LED lights, a dimmer. Each has its own step-by-step walkthrough, with a diagram built in front of you. Come back to this map whenever you lose track of where a circuit fits. Big picture here, fine detail there. So here's the whole house in one breath. The supply comes in through the service head and a meter.